Hey, good evening, folks. How are you? Welcome to the channel. And what is the final live cast for 2022? So I've written a couple of things down really so I can remember what I need to say at this stage. So what we're looking at is I wanted to mention for next year, I'm organising a charitable event, which will involve the Facebook page and the people that follow that. I'm opening up a garden, if you like, so they can come and see a working hive. So really to promote beekeeping in our area. So that's what I've got designs on doing. So I'm also looking for help from the Facebook group, and I've already posted it on the book itself to ask if anybody finds in the early part of the season this year any swarms, because I'm going on to do an experiment, and the experiment will be in treatment free. I know initially I was against it, but to be able to have a reasonable idea and a balanced view of treatment free, why not do it? So it's going to be done in isolation. I don't intend to do it in and around any of the apiaries that I've got currently, or should I say apiary I've got currently. So that's the intention. But what I was hoping is that anybody who does treatment-free beekeeping would come on to this broadcast and just give me their ideas, setups, what they've more than likely found over the time that they've been doing treatment-free. It is a controversial subject, and it does promote a lot of discussion, and in some cases a little bit aggressive. But I'm trying to dispel that and give them a chance to put their point across. And for me to fully understand is obviously I need to go down the treatment-free route, if you like. So my intention is initially, if I can source a feral colony or someone flags one up to be in our community somewhere, I intend to do it over a couple of seasons. At least then I'll get a good idea. So it'll be blow by blow account, and I'm going to film it, and I'm going to see how it progresses and to whether the colony does survive. It's important to have a balanced view, and I have changed my mind, which I think is the right thing to do. So the intention will be initially, if I get the feral colony, to do it in isolation, and to do a mite wash initially to see what the levels are as a base setting. So I know there is a risk factor involved, and I've been looking at other apiaries and beekeepers in the area. So I have got somewhere where I can do this. So I will post updates on a weekly stroke monthly basis to try and give you an idea of what's happening within the colony. Now, I kind of figure that feral colonies have been out there a long time, and without the help of beekeepers or getting stuffed into a hive. So I'm finding that quite intriguing in so much as they've been surviving. So they must be able to deal in some way any brood diseases, especially, I would say, varroa. So I don't know if you agree. Comment, come up on here. Just let me know who is doing treatment free at the moment that's within the viewership on our channel. So other things that we're going to discuss is that so far I'm content with how things are going with the current Queen Elizabeth hive. As you can remember from last time, certainly in the summertime, late summer that is, when our nucleus went through changes that were slightly detrimental, being that the queen that I ordered through the post was late by a certain amount, and it was concerning because the heat was quite extreme this summer for sure. And I was worried about it would affect her fertility, affect her performance. And as it happened, things did happen. There was a lot of chalk brood I noticed, and that the queen was being superseded. And that was within the first couple of weeks after the introduction, which took 7 days. So I was a little bit disappointed because I took a step back from that. So it was a case of we had to merge it with the current Queen Elizabeth hive. Now, you might say that I'm cheating slightly, but I have ordered another nucleus from Black Mountain Honey to arrive early part of the season next year. So the whole idea is that to have 2 hives in the garden to which they can support each other, in so much I can change resources between the 2. So it's almost like starting again. However, that's the way it is with beekeeping, I found in this last year. So I'm referring to my notes again. I apologize, but I'm trying to remember everything, and say only 2 brain cells. When one gets topped up, it starts to get difficult. So other stuff I'm also going to plead for, certainly through the Facebook group and anybody who's on there. I'm trying to find an extractor, a second-hand one, hopefully, because they are at this present time uber expensive, and it's only getting more expensive as time goes on. So it's not the most easiest thing to do when you start procuring large items. So that's what we're looking for. And also, just to shoot it out there as well, I'm actually looking for armed forces veterans, UK forces, that want to participate in some sort of regime, if you like, of coming out to look at how beekeeping is done from start. I'm no expert, but what I will say is that I can only give it in my perspective as far as how the first season's gone. And as I've said in previous videos before, it's been a steep learning curve for sure. And it has been interesting and also worrying in the same amount. So what I'm trying to do is ensure that the next season, the mistakes that I made, which were a few, to be able to rectify those and have a good start to the season. I am trying to expand my concern to other areas, and I've already put a message out, as I said, to ask if anybody wouldn't mind a hive placement if they have a reasonably large garden. That then gives me, a free range of different forage areas and seeing how each hive progresses throughout the season. Now, this won't happen straight away because obviously I have to build the current resources that I've got, and I'm getting there. Slowly but surely I'm getting there. So I'd also like to thank Rich from Time as Honey and DC Blessed Bees, who partook in the last live cast, and my thanks goes out to them. What I'm going to try and do over the next season is make things a little bit more structured and talk about subjects that are relevant and try and stick to them as much as possible, because I do tend to stray and blether too much. So that's the general idea. So I'm still waiting for some feedback. There's a couple of folk looking in. So if you have any comments, please feel free to whack them in the comments section. Don't be afraid, because it's some subject we need to discuss, I think, and dispel some of the myths associated with treatment-free. And I believe that. So I'm giving the opportunity, if you like, for folk to come on here and have a chat. So, yeah, we're waiting. Other stuff, whilst we're waiting for that, I'm looking at again, publications that I mentioned before. I wanted to mention some of the older ones. And the one that I thought was quite useful, albeit very old, is this one, which is At the Hive Entrance, which was written by H. Storch, if that's the correct pronunciation. In here is basically what you would find just by observation alone outside of the hive to see what's going on therein. It's interesting in so much it breaks it down, but some of the ideas I think might be a little bit dated in terms of feeding regimes, and it seems to be quite, how can I say, stick in the mud type things when it comes to feeding and how bees react to that feeding in certain parts of the season. My own experience so far is that I've realized that feeding is subjective, one, to your operation, and secondly to weather conditions. And I found this year that I was feeding quite late sugar syrup into November, most definitely, due to the weather being as warm as it has been. But of course that's changed, and we're now down into single figures. And tonight, as it happens, I check the bottom tray and I'm looking at around about 5 mites. I've noticed there was a 0 count about a week ago, so I'm not overly concerned. However, I've got to be mindful that the weather being in single figures, I'm going to have to try and pick a day that's going to be slightly warmer and that the cluster is not so tight together. I still have 2 boxes full of bees, which surprises me, and there is signs of natural degradation, and there is signs of bees on the landing board which have died, but they've been few. I think I've counted up, the most I've seen at any one time is around 8 individuals. So I'm kind of thinking that that's the last of the summer bees, which are dying, and the winter bees hopefully now are in full flow. I have been watching them and monitoring the hive, not by getting in there and disturbing them, but certainly by listening. And it would seem that there's a low hum, which tells me that, you know, there's nothing untoward I can see at this present time. Of course, feeding is important, and we are now on fondant. They have actually almost cleared 6.5 kilos within a month, which is pretty good going. So they're hungry little beggars. I've hefted the hive, and the hive, I believe, to a weight that where I want it to be. So now it's just a case of replacing the fondant as and when they get rid of the first lot, which are doing quite well. So that's where we are with the hive. I've still got lots and lots of work to do for next season, especially when it comes to hive preparation. As I've alluded to before, and you've seen in other videos, I've got 4 Swenty hives, and I've also got a second Abello, which I'm going to use for the nucleus that arrives early part of the season. And I found that they seem to take to those hives. It's good insulation. It's 12 frames, and they do draw out frames pretty quick over the early part of the season. Obviously, this was stimulated by 1-to-1 sugar syrup, and as soon as they got into the swing of things, the boxes filled up pretty quick. Also, I remember in the first part of the season, certainly from establishment beekeepers, that I wouldn't get any crop whatsoever, and I would be lucky. Well, that wasn't the case, and certainly this year, I did get a fair few frames, and I actually gave some of it away just for folk to try, and it would seem that it's quite a hit. And also, I had to check the water content, which in this case was below 16%. which was quite good as well. I was worried initially because I did feed a lot of sugar syrup in the beginning, but that was soon devoured in terms of comb being drawn, and I have lots of resources to play with for next year. So the second hive, I'm thinking of checkerboarding, certainly initially, and I'm also going to look at producing cut comb, which is a bit of a challenge. I know it's labor intensive, certainly from the bees' point of view, but the way I see it is it's done with only one box, and the boxes have got small wooden frames which allow the bees to draw out comb, and eventually they can be extracted as a singular unit and be replaced quite readily. Good thing about it as well is it's very recyclable. So the wooden frames that the cut comb is on can be returned and I can use them again. The outlay is not particularly cheap for certainly a national super with the small frames in it, but it's worth a try. And going by what happened this season, I'm pretty sure that it won't take long before they start diving into those. Again, I will try and checkerboard some of the supers so they can draw them up, because last year I didn't use a queen excluder. And I found, although I didn't use one, it did draw the bees up. And I did try an excluder in the very early part of the season. And I found that they didn't seem to like passing through that queen excluder. So my conclusion from that was that it needs to have drawn comb above the brood box to be able to draw them up through the queen excluder. Hence my idea of checkerboarding next year. Queen excluders aren't the best. Some people don't like them. In my case, I didn't use them, and I found that they did expand quite rapidly up into the second box. So that was good news as well. The next live cast will be next year in the early part, and it will be probably when I receive the next nucleus from Black Mountain Honey. So I'll film that, the installation and getting them settled in, and see how that hive stacks up against the Queen Elizabeth hive. So there's no guesses what the next hive will be. It will be what was the Prince Philip hive, is what I'm going to call it for next season. As Chad as it sounds, you can see here how I perceive my my thoughts. I'm a very blue through and through, so therefore the hives are going to have the names of members of the royal family. Okay, what else have we got? Let's have a look. Yes, let me see. Yeah, going back to the veteran participation. Any folk from the Facebook end that know any veterans in our area, let them know. That's my intention. So going back to it, so firstly with the open day, I'm going to make that a charitable event, because what I want is to raise some money for a worthy local charity. So far, I've had one return, I think, saying or suggesting a charity, which is the local food bank. And in this modern age, I still can't believe that a lot of folk that wouldn't even think about going to food banks are going to food banks. And it's pretty sad state of affairs, I must admit. But if we can help them, maybe it should be the charity that we actually make a donation. So the idea is that I'm going to have 2 folk at any one time to come round. I've already had a good return. People are interested, which is great. and I'll have 2 folk at any one time. Obviously, you get a cup of tea as well, and then you get to see how the colony is progressing and how it works, and I can explain the caste system, the way things happen, how broods produce, brood diseases, anything like that, anything that will promote beekeeping and the interest in it. Remembering all pollinators are important, but I'm biased, of course. So really, this is going to be a very short broadcast, and all I'd like to say to all subscribers to the channel is that thank you for doing that, and I also appreciate the comments and input I had over the 9 or 10 months that I've actually been beekeeping, and they've been useful. And what I'm trying to do is get other ideas from folk, not just here, but overseas. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from across the pond in the US, although they do things slightly differently and the seasons change. And as I say, everything's subjective. It has been useful. And in most cases, I've seen a lot of innovation in terms of progression of looking at brood diseases, varroa treatments, and all that sort of stuff. And I'll continue to watch that and employ my own ideas as far as next year. So what else is there? Nothing really. I mean, winter's winter. So what I'm also looking at doing, if I can, I've got lots of things I need to do, and you'll probably have seen the video reference the allotment that I've now got and my attempt to grow vegetables. I don't know anything about it, and I hold my hands up and say I don't. So for me, this winter is going to be very busy in terms of research. And of course, the other thing that's come up on the horizon is me looking at queen rearing. Queen rearing. Again, there are so many methods of queen rearing. It's unbelievable. So for me, I have to sift through and find not the easiest method, but the most successful method as far as queen rearing is concerned. But I can't do this until, one, I get enough resources and enough hives and colonies to be able to support each other in making up starters, finishers, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've got things mapped out, and I'm trying to prioritize, if you like, and get to a stage where I'm ready to do that. So for me, queen rearing looks to be a good option as far as I would probably say queen rearing from the Queen Elizabeth hive, because the temperament and how prolific they are and how quickly they expand. And I've found that although I have been stung, and I admit that as well, on a couple of occasions, and the last one being 5 times in one shot, just leads me to believe that, you know, their temperament changes towards the end of the year. There's lots and lots of things they need to do, i.e. produce winter bees, and also to protect their resources and the queen. So from that front, it's my own fault, the fact I got stung when I opened the hive and stupid enough not to wear any protection. So yeah, you've seen that. And the face was swollen for a number of days. And it also tells me that I'm probably not that resistant to bee stings. But, you know, my son, who assists me, also has received more stings than I have. So, yeah, they just tell you you're doing something wrong. And that's the reason you get stung. Because I was fairly careful in the past. But this time it didn't work. So, hey ho, lessons learned. So other things. So yeah, there's not much other news apart from maybe over probably the next couple of months or so, I'll throw out or increase the output of gem buzz and subject matter. So there's another request. Anybody who has got an idea or a subject that they've looked at and you think might need dissecting and talking about, and bringing it down into maybe simpler terms, I'm more than happy to do that as well. So anyway, it's time for me to wrap up. It's been a short one, around about 28 minutes. And anybody who has come in, welcome. And please enjoy this live cast. It will be, as I say, the last one for this year. And it just remains me to say that thanks for all your support, and absolutely have a great Christmas and a happy new year. So that's me going to wrap up this live cast, and I will see you on the next one, which will be early part of next year, probably once I've painted hives, done some maintenance, done another treatment of varroa, and we'll go from there. So see you soon, and happy holidays. Cheerio now.